Good evening. I'm Colton Shone. Dennis Welch is off this week, and this is Politics Unplugged. There was no end in sight for the government shutdown, and as we record this on Friday, SNAP benefits are in limbo for millions of Americans, including about 900,000 Arizonans. So here to talk about that impact and what the state can do now is State House Minority Leader Oscar de los Santos. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get right into it. Obviously, about 1 million people here in our state rely on these benefits here. And as we record this, really, there's not much that has been done on the federal side to help with this program, the SNAP benefits program.
Right. This is a devastating moment, as you mentioned, for nearly 1 million Arizonans who rely on this program to eat. Let's talk about who some of those individuals who receive these benefits are. 1 in 4 children in Arizona receive SNAP benefits. 1 in 3 SNAP beneficiaries are elderly or disabled. You have tens of thousands of veterans who serve this country honorably, who rely on this aid and assistance in order to feed themselves and their families. A lot of the people who receive this program are actually working. They just work in low-wage jobs, and so they don't have enough money to make ends meet. And so this is a devastating moment for those families. And I am frankly I think it's insane that Washington Republicans have failed the people of Arizona in this way.
Yeah, we talk about some of the stuff that our state leadership is doing. We saw that Governor Katie Hobbs is using some unspent COVID relief funds to help fund some sort of a program which would give about $30 to people. Obviously, that's not going to go very far.
Right. Listen, while Washington Republicans cause chaos and dysfunction, I'm very proud and glad to see Governor Hobbs stepping up and showing real leadership. As you mentioned, she released about $2 million earlier this week. About 1.5 million of that is going directly to food banks across the state of Arizona to provide emergency aid. I was with the governor yesterday morning at St. Mary's Food Bank. We were handing out food boxes, directly helping out affected Arizonans. And so I'm glad to see the governor doing everything she can to help the people of Arizona. But the truth is that the cleanest and best solution right now is Donald Trump. He can, with a stroke of a pen, right now, today, end this chaos. A lot of people don't know this, but the Trump administration has $6 billion in a reserve fund that is supposed to be used for emergencies like this. He is declining to use that, and as a result, people are going to go hungry, and I think that is just absolutely insane.
And we've seen our state join about 24 others sue the federal government to try to get that contingency fund to help fund the SNAP benefit program. But when it comes to the wider issue here up in Washington, D.C., I mean, we've got both sides pointing the blame at each other as to why they're keeping the federal government shut down. I mean, where do Democrats come in on this? Obviously, a lot of people want them to reopen the government. They want these benefits, but Democrats still holding out.
Right. Listen, this is a Republican shutdown. Who controls the White House? A Republican. Who controls the Senate? Republicans. Who controls the House? Republicans. And so the idea that they're trying to turn around and spin this and blame it on Democrats is absolutely ridiculous and has no merit to it. But more importantly, here's the truth. Everyday Arizonans who are out here working hard, trying to make ends meet and feed their families are about to go hungry. And Donald Trump has the power single-handedly to end this crisis for them and release those $6 billion in contingency funds so that seniors don't go hungry and children don't have to skip a meal.
You mentioned that a lot of people don't know about that contingency fund.
Right.
You go to the food banks. I mean, I'm sure everyone's just focusing on what they are able to bring to their own household in the moment. How do you get that wider message out there that there are funds that are addressed for this very issue, but they're not being tapped into?
Yeah, so 2 things. One, earlier this week, I sent a letter along with all of my Democratic colleagues in the House demanding that the Trump administration immediately release this funding. And number 2, Attorney General Chris Mays, as you noted just a couple of moments ago, she joined a lawsuit earlier this week to sue the Trump administration and force them to release this funding. There was a hearing on that court case yesterday in Massachusetts, and it looked like the judge was probably going to side with Attorney General Mays and force the administration. That ruling, as of right now, hasn't come down, though.
Well, how much longer do we expect Democrats to hold out? So when it comes to the federal government and, or the Republicans to hold out or to give in to talk to about extension of those subsidies, like who's going to give first? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, listen, the political dysfunction in Washington needs to end, right? But the Republicans, again, control the White House. They control the Senate. They control the House of Representatives. And they need to come to the table because right now, premiums for health insurance just tripled for thousands of families in Arizona. That is unacceptable, and I'm glad that Senator Mark Kelly and Senator Ruben Gallego are standing up to make sure that those prices come down. I think that's of paramount importance, and I'm really glad to see our Democratic senators fighting for affordability and fighting for health care.
How much longer do you think we can go on like this, though? I mean, the Senate's not supposed to go back into session until Monday, so at least until Monday, there's not going to be any opening of the federal government. It's going to tie the longest stretch that we've had in previous years of 35 days. How much longer do you think either side will hold on to?
Yeah, listen, they need to take a page from the House Democratic playbook here in Arizona. We worked across the aisle with our Republican colleagues. We worked with Governor Hobbs to pass a bipartisan budget that invested in things like increased scholarships to make community college and universities free. We made public school lunches and breakfast free for working class students. They've got to come together in Washington and figure this out. But what we cannot do, what we absolutely cannot do, is throw working class families under the bus and let their health care costs just skyrocket. That can't happen. You know,
the saying is all politics are local, right? So when it comes to Arizona voters, and when they look at state leadership, those who represent them in the state capital, what are you telling your constituents about the current situation right now as it is, who are hurting? In fact, we've seen so many people show up to these food banks. A lot of people who are working are not collecting paychecks right now because they're working for the federal government. Where's that help that's coming in, or that's much needed? Yeah,
listen, I would say Democrats are doing everything humanly possible to end this crisis. Governor Hobbs just released nearly $2 million in emergency aid. I just sent a letter demanding that Trump end this mess by releasing that contingency funding. Attorney General Mays is suing to make that happen. Secretary Adrian Fontes is out in the community urging businesses to step up and hand out free meals to families in need. So, you know, again, yesterday, Governor Hobbs and I were at St. Mary's Food Bank distributing food directly to families who are in need. So we're using every single tool at our disposal. And I would urge every Arizonan right now to call the White House and urge them to release this contingency funding. That is the #1 fastest and best solution to end this nightmare.
Yeah, we also hear from Republicans saying that, yes, families should not be going hungry. We need to do something quickly. There are several other options in terms of funding this, piecemeal. Where is the Democratic response on that end?
Yeah, well, I'm a little bit surprised to hear that, because if you look at the House Republicans, at least here in the Arizona legislature, they actually came out and said that they are not willing to touch the Arizona Rainy Day Fund or sort of savings account in order to fund this. So I'm shocked to hear that suddenly they're interested in funding SNAP. They already slammed that door closed. And by the way, these are the same legislators who just a couple of weeks ago were pushing for tax breaks for millionaires who own private planes. So I think that tells you where their priorities lie.
So as of this taping and throughout the weekend at least, this benefit, this program SNAP, not going to be funded as we head into next week. What is your message to those who, don't know where they're going to get their next meal or how to put food on the table? Because $130 when those SNAP benefits only go so far, and the $30 that's going to be allocated to that certain program per family, that's going to go quick.
Right. I would say, again, we're doing everything we can. I'm fighting hard. If you need food assistance, visit azfoodbanks.org. They're going to connect you with a local food bank or food pantry that can help out. If you are able to, please donate, please volunteer, get out into your community. Washington Republicans have failed us, and right now we only have each other.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for being here. State House Minority Leader Oscar de los Santos. Still ahead, I'll bring in our panel to talk about all of this week's top political stories, including the latest on the government shutdown, when Politics Unplugged continues. It's now time to look back at the past week. This is your political roundup. With no end to the shutdown in sight, SNAP benefits were due to expire on Friday. Congress previously approved more than $5 billion for a contingency fund to keep the SNAP program going, but the Trump administration says it will not tap into that reserve. Governor Katie Hobbs says Arizona does not have the money to replace the funding for SNAP benefits in our state. She did allocate $1.8 million in leftover COVID relief funds to provide emergency food assistance and help food banks in our state. State Schools Chief Tom Horn warned education leaders that Arizona could lose more than $860 million in federal funding if they don't eliminate language supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion in schools. The state board postponed a vote on that issue.
Former Phoenix Mayor Paul Johnson has taken over the No Labels Party and rebranded it the Arizona Independent Party. Johnson says he hopes it will help make Arizona elections fairer for independents. And a state lawmaker has a novel idea to crack down on habitual speeders. Republican House member Kwong Win wants to install speed governing devices on their cars to force them to stay under the speed limit.
All right, let's bring in our panel right now. Republican political consultant Marcus Dell'Artino and Democrat Tony Cani. Thank you guys for being here. Let's start off with you on this side. So obviously the federal government has still shut down. Monday is the next time that the Senate can meet to try to reopen the government, tying the longest time for being shut down by 35 days. Where is this going to go?
Well, I think, you've got this tension where Democrats really want their senators and members in the House to stand strong and to fight back. And there's a lot of pain that people are feeling, with increasing housing costs, with increasing everything, and then now with the health insurance going up. And so that's why the senators are fighting, is they want to sort of like prevent that from happening. But I think, one thing that's happening, aside from the politics of it, is that I do think that Arizona is starting to figure out just how many people are on nutritional assistance in our state. The fact that 23% of children in our state rely on this benefit is something I don't think that most Arizonans know about. And that's why I think it's just wild that the president isn't just tapping into this reserve. And then, he could use, whatever other leverage he wants against Democrats during the shutdown. But I think this is one of the things, just, make the decision, release that reserve, and move on to the next fight.
One of the issues that we've been hearing for the last several months, and even the last couple of years, that Democrats have lost their footing, really don't have a great messaging right now. We've got the president and members of Congress saying that this is the Democrats' shutdown. The Schumer shutdown is what a lot of them are calling it. How do we get around that?
Well, I think you just focus on what this is really about. This is really about people. This is really about these skyrocketing healthcare costs. And people care about the issue that Democrats are talking about right now. And I think that, we've had a concern about this for the long term. We just saw the Republican budget was passed. It cut a lot of these SNAP benefits, to an even lower level. And so we just got to continue to fight. I think that when it comes to messaging, one of the things that's happening with Democrats is a lot of people in the Democratic base or independents that vote for Democrats, they want Democrats to fight against what Trump is doing in Washington, D.C. And I think that's part of what you're seeing here, is that a lot of the people in the Senate have figured it out, and they know they need to stand up to him on this.
Let's bring in Marcus Dell'Artino. Is that going to be working on the Democrats' favor with this messaging that they're trying to stand up to the Trump administration?
Well, history would tell you no, first of all. But I do find some irony here because, part of this argument is the Democrats are trying to stop skyrocketing health care costs. I just got my health care premiums, and I got to tell you, it's too late. Our premiums went up by 30%, regardless of this argument that's currently happening on the Capitol. So I can only imagine what's going to happen a year from now. My health care costs are probably going to be double. But that being said, we're going to have to see sort of where this goes. There's a bipartisan group on the Hill that's been working to try and get the government open. Something could happen this weekend, an announcement. But right now, it looks like we're headed in it for the long haul. What Republicans need to be cautious of is that, part of the Republican Party is made up of the Christian coalition, which was what we used to call it in the 80s and the 90s, but evangelical voters. And there is some compassion within that segment of the Republican Party for taking care of those who are less fortunate. And so if you start to lose that support within the Republican Party, it could cause them some headaches.
We heard the president posting on Truth Social that Senate Republicans need to pull the Trump card and get rid of the filibuster to get this shutdown ended. Do you see that happening?
We have been through that argument probably 20 times in my lifetime, and I'm quick to tell people I don't know if there's anything more dangerous than getting rid of the filibuster rule, but everybody uses it to their advantage, right? When Democrats want something, they want to get rid of the filibuster. When Republicans want something, they want to get rid of the filibuster. And I have a hard time believing that that is going to be good policy. As a matter of fact, I think it'll just speed up this populism movement that we have on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, let's talk about the food benefits now. Obviously, SNAP expected to not be funded because of the government shutdown. When we're hearing there is a $5 billion contingency fund set up for the very nature to keep these kinds of programs open and funded, Republicans budging on that?
Well, I guess the argument that I'm hearing is that Congress needs to authorize that money to be spent, which is sort of a different policy than has been established in the past, but we are where we are. I think that the Republicans have their heels dug in pretty tight on this one. They've certainly painted themselves in a corner to not release that money until the Democrats are willing to come to the table and open up government.
You know, when it comes to where we are right now, obviously we're seeing video of people going to these food banks en masse. These places are seeing numbers that they haven't even seen even during the pandemic. I mean, what's going to happen? What do you?
I mean, that's people anticipating that they're going to lose their benefits are getting in these lines. You know, at St. Mary's, KJS covered that it took an hour. It was taking people an hour to get through the line, to get food. And so, I think community members are stepping up. I think, we talked about how the governor is stepping up and putting money in these food banks. In the short term, they're going to be this solution as people realize, gosh, I need to find a way to feed my kids. But there's no way that they have the capacity, even if we all start donating, and we all really should, to serve the needs that people have. And so really, that's about emergency care. But the solution to this has to come from Washington, D.C.
All right, with less than 30 seconds, any response?
No. I mean, I'm not too sure. We're going to have to see how this fleshes out. I'm hopeful that it will be resolved early next week.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people hanging in the balance there. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, the state school chief says Arizona could lose hundreds of millions of dollars in federal education funding over DEI language. That's next on Politics Unplugged. Welcome back to Politics Unplugged. The state schools chief, Tom Horn, warned education leaders they could lose more than $860 million in federal funding if they don't eliminate all language promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. So let's bring back our panel. Let's start off with you this time, Marcus. So last week, Superintendent Tom Horn went to the school board saying we need to get rid of these languages so that we can secure our federal funding. As we know, the school system here in our state already facing a shortfall when it comes to this. Where do you stand on this issue?
Well, I'm not doing my personal politics on this show. Let's talk about the politics involved here. So, this was obviously a big part of the Donald Trump and the Republican brand going all during the election season and certainly post as he was in the White House, and it became part of a bill at the federal level, and it does affect all that federal funding coming into Arizona for education. So, one, he does have a valid point. It does put it at risk. And two, the voters seem to have wanted to message that. And so I think he's taking the right action to prevent that money from, because this administration is not afraid to come in and take that money away. And so and it's a big number for schools, big number. And so I think he's making the right choice. One. Two, it's good for him in politics. He does have a Republican primary coming up here. And so it's good to be on that sort of messaging platform as he runs against his opponent.
Yeah, when it comes to DEI, I mean, in certain circles, it's become a word that, it's just a dirty word now.
Yeah.
How do Democrats get past that? I mean, obviously, $860 million is a lot, and schools do need to be funded.
Well, I mean, just on this specific thing, there's already an injunction about this executive order from a lawsuit that the ACLU did. There's been a lot of these types of executive orders that Trump has done about withholding money from departments of education around the country that have been blocked by the courts. And so I think when it comes procedurally to what the Board of Education did, they just said, hey, let's just wait until this is resolved. Maybe it's 2 weeks, and then we can have this conversation. But I think to what Marcus said, Horn wanted the politics of this right now, and that's why he pushed it. And I think that's the problem here, is that this is about funding our schools. This is about creating, educational opportunities for our kids to prepare for, college, career, and life. But instead, this is a fight now about whether or not teachers are told, hey, sometimes you have to have sensitivity to cultural differences when you're teaching students. Yeah. That's all that really this language is being removed. And so I think it's important for Democrats to not fall for these traps and get into a fight about the phrase DEI, and instead be like, we need to make sure that teachers have the resources and the training that they need to teach all of our students, not just some of our students. And that's really what this is about. This isn't some big dirty affirmative action, something. It's not that, but they're trying to make it that. And I think that that's the problem with the politics of the whole thing.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, I mean, obviously, a lot of schools here, we're seeing drop in enrollment numbers. We're seeing many schools having the conversations right now to close, needing some money. I mean, when it comes down to it, this is a huge chunk, $860 million.
Yeah, it absolutely, it is a big sum of money, and I hate to break it to everybody, but educating kids is expensive. Feeding them stinks too, by the way, but educating them is expensive, and it is part of the base of what they survive on, in addition to state funding, obviously, but it's part of the formula, and so you've got to fund these schools. But schools are facing these challenges for a number of reasons. I think people are quick to blame it on one thing, and that is not actually the case. I mean, factually, people are having less children. So, of course, we're going to have schools have closures. And we need to sort of examine that going into it.
And I think the reason why that's happening is because of what you just said. It's so expensive. Everything is so expensive. And I think a lot of young families are saying, like, I just can't afford to have kids. And so this is another example of that, like, pressure point that expenses are having on, rising expenses are having on our population and people.
Oh man, I know. Tell me about it. Yes, 2 kids myself. All right, so let's talk about something else now. Lead foots. You guys have lead foots?
Oh no. Not me. I am way too conservative and slow of a driver.
Very
it angers everybody.
Okay. Well, a state lawmaker, obviously up in the Yavapai County area, wants to introduce a bill that would try to curb habitual speeders by putting devices on their cars. What do you think?
It reminds me of the devices we use for habitual DUIs, and you got to blow into your car. This one works sort of in tandem with your phone and GPS, and puts a governor, if you will, on your car that you can't exceed speed. I thought it was an interesting tact. Of course, it'll ultimately be up to the judge to dispense that rather than a speeding ticket. But there are, we've seen repeated cases of people using social media to brag about their speed, and they're doing 140 on the 101 or the 202 or whatever it is, and really putting people's life at risk. And so I thought that was sort of an interesting possible solution to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think eventually one day we're all going to have self-driving cars to begin with, right? It's going to be like a thing that no one ever drives themselves. But what's the other side say? Like, what is?
I don't know if this is one of these things that's partisan. I think I think that some people have been really against speed cameras, which is a thing that prevents a lot of the speeding because people slow down. But so this seems almost it's about catching people when they do something wrong and then punishing them. He's focused on speeding before because he had a bill in the legislature last session to make it so that if a legislator gets a speeding ticket, they can't claim immunity to say they can't get a ticket, which some of his colleagues on the Republican side got kind of upset with him about. So maybe this is just a pet issue for him, and he cares about automobile safety. That's great. Like, have the conversation. I don't know if this is the solution, but that is something we need to be talking about.
All right, guys. Thank you both for being here for Politics Unplugged. Again, thanks for joining us. Dennis will be back next week. That's all we have for today, but I'll make sure that you guys get the message that about that. Be sure to join us next week for more Politics Unplugged. We'll see you then.